everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We had no show last week, and I was going through freaking withdrawal. Andrew, did you miss me?
Of course I missed you.
Obviously. So I'm excited to be back.
Yeah.
Things are bananas because the events we've been planning since April are this weekend and this week. So it's kind of insane. It's been so crazy, and it's I've done organized dozens of actions here in Harrisburg area and even Philly. But organizing outside of your state is very different. And I've never been to Ohio in my life. So that makes it even more, I knew no one, and our guest tonight is the reason that I met people in East Palestine, Ohio, which has made all of this possible. So tonight we are going to have introduce Lewis back from Status Quo.
We're doing the whole thing that we should be doing that everyone else does, where we start with just us and bring in our guests. We're gonna do
all kinds of professional and shit now.
Louis coming in 3, 2, 1.
Wow, I appreciate the very, very formal introduction there.
Right?
What was you gonna get from us?
Yes, we have popped our cherry of doing a show, correctly, and next week is my 6-year anniversary of doing a show. So nothing like taking time to have perfection. But thank you so much for joining us again, Lewis. We've talked about it before. I think you guys, Maximilian, who else is covering it? I really want to know, because it feels like we scream into a void a lot. Mm-hmm. So, what you've actually gone to East Palestine several times. How many times have you been there?
It's been 3 trips to East Palestine, about a week long each. So I've spent about 3 weeks on the ground in East Palestine at this point, and currently in the works chatting with Status Quo of getting back again for another week or so in the month of August. So we'll be headed back there soon. Yeah.
I mean, after this weekend, I know for a fact I'm gonna want to go back. I have built such strong connections with these people, and I'm sure a lot of who I've been speaking with as well. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that just, oh my God, makes my blood boil is when people are like, oh, well, they voted for Trump, and they act like they don't deserve the clean water, clean air and stuff. And I don't want to be presumptuous that you have the same experience. I'd be surprised if you didn't. But mm-hmm. I know the people that I have been interacting with multiple times a day for 2 months. I know for a fact that they are so kind, so intelligent, so just, thoughtful and so respectful. And mm-hmm. I mean, these people, that's my people. That's who I want to be around. And they are some of the most talented organizers I've ever come into contact with. And, I always ask them, were you an organizer before 5 months ago? No. Right. They're forced to be one. They have no other choice.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, I experienced a bit of that, especially on my first trip in East Palestine, when things were a little bit more crazy in town. There was actually some media coverage in a matter of I think it was back-to-back days, if I'm remembering correctly. We had former President Trump in town on a Wednesday. Thursday morning, Pete Buttigieg was there for 2 hours or something, did a quick little in and out because they were getting a lot of pressure at that point. And then the day after that was Erin Brockovich, that her first big appearance in East Palestine. So there was a lot going on during that time frame. But I remember we posted a clip of an interview that I did with a couple kids who live in East Palestine with the permission of their parents and everything. I had already talked with their parents quite a bit. And during that interview, granted, it was raining and probably 40 degrees outside. It was freezing cold, kind of miserable weather. And a couple of these kids had like Trump flags that they were like had over them essentially, and like it was freezing cold. Like they were literally like almost out there shivering essentially. But the Trump was about to roll in and everything, and all in that video. Number one, the main takeaway was at the time where basically no questions had been answered about anything at this point in time. The water fountains in the schools were still like open. Kids could like fill up their water bottles in the school, and it was like, okay, maybe the water test that you just did really quickly right now is fine, but do we really have all the answers right now? And those kids like kind of said in that interview, hey, we can get water from the water fountain. And I kind of like, when I watched it back, I like looked at my reaction to hearing them say that. I'm like, I asked it again to like make sure it was right. And no one in the comments on that video was worried about these kids potentially drinking poisoned water. It was filled with a bunch of terrible stuff that was essentially like they're getting what they deserve. Like their parents are all voting for people who, are not pushing for regulation of rail industry, yada yada. You fully have seen all of those types of responses, and it, yeah, frankly was pretty gross. Most of the people that I've spoken with in East Palestine, whether they are, most of East Palestine, the folks there are people who voted for Trump, in 2016 or in 2020. Not all of them, though, number one. And number two, even the ones that did have a solid understanding of, their reasons why they didn't vote for him. But a lot of them also understand, like, hey, whether you're voting for generic Democrat or generic Republican, most of these politicians are, frankly, bought and paid for by companies just like Norfolk Southern, and in some cases literally Norfolk Southern or the companies that own them, whether it be BlackRock or JP Morgan or Vanguard. The politicians are getting donations from them, and then they also own stock in those companies. And in a lot of conversations that I would have with folks, whether they were on the left side of the spectrum or on the right side, they understand that part of it for sure. And they're voting for whoever is making the best case to them. So while I may disagree with how some of them vote, that's their right. And regardless of who they vote for, they're just as an American as you or I. They're just as a regular person as you or I, and they don't deserve to be poisoned and then essentially lied to about it by a bunch of federal agencies, which is a whole other other story. But yeah, I definitely experienced that. And yeah, you're right. It's gross that is the way people, twist things up in their mind, I guess. I don't know.
And it's so pathetic because it's like Biden's the one that has the ability to sign a paper he's been putting off for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, cool. So even if people vote, first of all, it doesn't even go by county. So I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Right.
But everybody thinks about this in electoral politics. And that is not the only thing that this comes down to. This is about capitalism. This is about environment. This is about complete disregard for humanity. This is so much more than electoral politics. But the fact that people are like, oh, see, you should have voted for Biden. Well, first of all, it doesn't matter if they voted for Biden. That's who's in charge, and he ain't doing shit.
Yes.
So regardless, if you're, you shouldn't have voted for Trump, what's it matter? What the hell is Biden doing besides, I'm going to go for over 5 months. And then freaking, DeSwine finally gets the balls to say, okay, look, after extensions and all this shit, I'm finally going to say, yes, let's declare this. And Biden can't even say shit about it and can't sign the paper. Why? What's it mean to him? Donations. That's all it means.
Oh, I absolutely agreed. And to add on top of that, too, sure, you can say, yes, President Trump did roll back some railroad regulations back during his term as president. But, last I checked, Joe Biden's been president for 2.5 years. He's had 2.5 years to bring back those exact same regulations. He's chosen not to. And then add on top of that, last December, railroad workers were trying to strike. And one of their major concerns was safety. They were also, looking for some time off because, God forbid, if you get sick, you can get a day off of work. That seems ridiculous, right? But what did Joe Biden do back in December? He essentially unilaterally squashed that strike by, obviously you needed Congress to vote on it, but when the president comes out and says we need to make sure our railroads are open and running, that's sending a very clear message to squash this thing. Let's end it. So yeah, and then to your point about DeWine, you know how many days it was, more than I do. It was in the last 2 weeks, finally sending the letter for the disaster declaration in East Palestine. There's a couple of issues with that even. I'm glad that he finally did it, but there's a couple of things that I'm concerned about with the disaster declaration. If you want to talk about that, we don't have to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, something I did some digging into, and I was fortunate to speak with Melissa Mays from Flint, Michigan, about this. She knows quite a bit about the Stafford Act, which is what this falls underneath when you're essentially asking for a disaster declaration or a state of emergency. That's like the piece of legislation that it falls under. And with the disaster declaration, or with the Stafford Act, there are a couple like boxes that you essentially need to check. Number one, there needs to be unmet needs. One major issue with the disaster declaration in East Palestine is that DeWine says that there are no unmet needs in East Palestine because Norfolk Southern is handling all of the needs. Now, is Norfolk Southern handling all of the needs? Absolutely not. They are, though, doing, I would say, probably the bare minimum of what needs to be done. Residents have been able to at least temporarily relocate in many cases because of Norfolk Southern. Now, those residents had to fight to be able to do it. Norfolk Southern makes them feel like shit about going and getting the money. In some cases, Norfolk Southern has made it so that some of those residents can't actually relocate, but they are providing those things. If I'm DeWine, though, that it's going to get denied. At least I think that it's going to get denied if you're saying that there are no unmet needs, because what are you asking for then? You're not really asking for anything. So instead of saying there's no unmet needs, there are clearly needs that Norfolk Southern isn't meeting. We could talk about the lack of valid residential air testing. Multiple researchers have talked about how bad the air testing is, despite the EPA saying otherwise. You could talk about people who want to leave permanently, not temporarily, and can't sell their home, or their home is worth half of what it was, a year ago. That's an unmet need. But instead, he, on his letter to President Biden, said there's no unmet needs. The other issue that I'm a little bit worried about with it is the difference between a disaster declaration and a state of emergency. Yes. A disaster declaration would open the door for more money, but from my understanding, a disaster declaration is really only valid for like a natural disaster. I did some digging to see if I could find an example of a not natural event where one has been approved. I found one where it was almost approved. It was initially denied. This was back in the early, I'm forgetting the year. It was during Obama's first term, where there was a factory that exploded in West Texas, and the governor of Texas at the time, I believe it was Rick Perry, asked for a disaster declaration. It was initially denied, and then he appealed, and then they came up with some sort of like half measure where they got some funding for it. So, there is still a chance, but if you were going to do it the right way, you would say, number one, there are unmet needs, because clearly there are. And number two, go for the state of emergency, because this wasn't a natural phenomenon. I could be wrong about some of this. This is very in the weeds on a couple of these things, but those are some things that I was looking into on as far as the disaster declaration goes.
No, that's totally valid. And one of the things also is that Jessica Kennard, I don't know if you know her, she was sharing an article that she was quoted in where it stated that only $5 million would be released. That's not a lot of money. No. I mean, it's a lot of money to us.
Right.
But when you're talking about people who are unhoused, and just to give people a perspective, when Norfolk Southern says we're helping house people, what happens is, like our one comrade Sousa, she she's living in a hotel for over 5 months with her little son. She has no choice. So their lives have been upended, obviously, and she has to pay and then hope she gets reimbursed. Sometimes she does not get reimbursed. Sometimes it takes forever. So if you don't have the money to pay up front and then harass them, I mean, it's not just like Norfolk Southern is like, yeah. And then, this so-called free clinic that they put in town that people are getting billed for,
Right.
they don't even have specialists.
Right.
They're just PCPs. That's
Right.
all they are. Like, it is so insane. But the one thing I will credit Norfolk Southern with is that they are, having epic Easter egg hunts and carnivals and fireworks and things like that.
The important things, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Andrew.
Yes.
Do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's just, I guess my biggest question is what, in terms of like how over these past 5 months that you've noticed in terms of how the after effects have been, is there anything that you feel like has kind of like, how have you noticed the community coming together?
I've seen like a couple ebbs and flows. I'll say that like in the early days, like early days, people were very much united because it was like it had just happened. It was this crazy thing. Like the when I was in East Palestine at the time, like Main Street was filled with news trucks and like people. It was like a chaotic scene basically. And there was a lot of community meetings that were heavily attended, standing room only, people standing outside wishing they could get in. And then I feel like they got to a point a couple weeks in, it was probably during my second trip there, where there was a beginning of a divide. There was definitely a kind of like let's move on crowd forming who either weren't necessarily experiencing all of the symptoms. They might have lived either a little bit further away, or just some people have been dealing with this differently. I've talked to residents who live in the same house who one of them deals with a lot of issues and the other one is generally fine. Stella and Darren Gamble are exactly. Yep. So fortunately they've been able to relocate for the time being. But the first time I met them, I did an interview in their living room. And the second time I met them, they were in the process. They had just relocated, and essentially every time they were going back into town, Stella was dealing with a lot of different health concerns. I'm blanking on what the specific ones were for her. Just I've spoken with so many people about this at this point, but she was dealing with different health concerns, and her husband Darren was feeling mostly fine. I mean, he has experienced symptoms before, but it wasn't as aggressive for him essentially. But they live in the exact same household. Other people I've spoken with have similar experiences. Some of it is that some people might have been spending more time in town, and in the beginning, your body builds up some sort of a tolerance to this sort of thing. That doesn't mean that it's fine and good now for you, but your body isn't necessarily like reacting to it in the same way. So in the middle period, things were definitely, there was an us and them kind of crowd forming. I'll credit, there's a couple people in particular who have tried to work really hard to like bridge that gap, and obviously the folks on the Unity Council I think are doing a good job of trying to do that and bringing in different voices from different places and whatnot. But that being said, in anything like this, there's still going to be divides and whatnot. I don't even think anyone on the Unity Council would say that like, oh yes, everything's hunky-dory, everybody's fine, and we're all, rainbows and butterflies, and like we're all in this together. That's, I'm sure that that's what they want it to be. But I don't even think the Unity Council would say that that's the case. It's still definitely some different factions in town and whatnot, but I would say that there is enough of a united force, and there are some of the leaders in that force are strong individuals who supported by a strong team as well, that I don't see stopping anytime soon, that's for sure. And I think that ultimately those folks are going to keep the pressure on, as they should, until some resemblance of justice happens. Although I don't even know what that looks like at this point.
And I imagine, going off of what you were saying, like I imagine some of the people who are kind of on the move on crowd might be some of the inner crowd that's more closer to some of the local politicians that are there, that or
no question
kind of want to run for office or thinking about it, or
local, tied in with local politicians for sure, and also in the in crowd who has the third time I was there, speaking with some small business owners in town. These weren't a couple people spoke to me on the record in a recorded interview about it, but a couple people, I've done interviews with them before, and they were like, hey, I'd rather just have this conversation, you and I. So I won't say who they are, but kind of sharing information about how certain businesses were being kind of singled out and helped out by Norfolk Southern a little bit more than others.
Yep.
Given some, maybe not just directly given cash, but it's like, oh, Norfolk Southern's going to buy, a bunch. For a random example, we're going to buy pizza for our team the next month from your business, or flowers from your flower shop, or ice cream cones. You get the picture. And that also has helped kind of with that division, I would say.
Nice.
Absolutely. And with you bringing up the Unity Council, I do want to give some shout outs. I know I'm going to forget someone. Jamie, our girl, first and foremost, her parents, Stella, and her dad, Chrissy, Zusa, Jess Kennard, oh my God, Christina, I can't even, my mind, Timothea, all these people are speaking Saturday. And by the way, I'm so excited because we have, Hillary Flynn. So all these people are speaking there's 11 speakers, including myself. I'll be the MC. And 9 of the speakers out of 11 are residents. So this is huge. We want them to have their voices heard. This is how rallies should be. This is what this is about. So, and also, I have goosebumps. I'm so excited to announce for the first time we have the endorsement of Unity Council of East Palestine. So that is so freaking exciting. There is no better endorsement. I legit broke down when they told me. I was just like, oh my God, because they are just, these people fight harder. I cannot even put into words how hard these people fight. It's beautiful. It is incredible. So we are so honored to have their endorsement. And we will be reading our official press release for the first time after bit later on the show, with other endorsements as well.
Congrats on that.
Thank you. It's an honor. It really is. And I mean, granted, most of Unity Council is speaking, but still, I'm like, that's still awesome, though, to put a stamp on it. I'll take it. Andrew, what did the comments say that you put up?
Yeah, so Christina was saying, just asked NS Norfolk Southern last week if they do testing in my area, 5.8 miles away, and EPA department, will not do any testing for me.
Yeah, I actually, I've got something I can add to that comment too. So I published a story on Status Quo Substack last week at some point, after speaking with Jamie and a couple other residents who had a private conversation with a couple of the EPA reps in town, in regards to issues in basements having potentially been a pathway to exposure, at least in the early days, potentially still, depending on the case-by-case situation. And I had asked the EPA a couple questions about that, number one, and also if they had any plans to redo any sort of indoor air testing or testing of any kind indoors, because several experts have spoken out on the record saying that all of the indoor air testing in East Palestine has essentially been not legit, including one of the members of the EPA. I broke a story a while ago, back in March. The EPA representative admitted that the devices they were using wasn't picking up butyl acrylate until it was 5 times above the action level. Other experts, Dr. Andrew Welton from Purdue University, saying that, among other things, of issues with the air testing devices. We just had a couple days ago, Carnegie Mellon and Texas A&M University found chemicals that the EPA was missing. All of these different pieces leading Andrew Welton actually writing an open letter to the Ohio delegation, the federal delegation. So J.D. Vance, Sherrod Brown, Bill Johnson is the representative from who represents East Palestine, essentially saying this. Yeah, essentially saying that the EPA is in way over its head, and that like they need to be removed from the situation because this is above their. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but above their scientific expertise. That the air testing has been flawed from the beginning, and that outside experts need to be brought into the situation, which is insane that, again, it's been 5.5 months, and we've got experts outside of the government who are kind of the best and brightest from not one university, not two universities, but 3 universities doing their own testing and everything, showing, hey, the EPA is missing a whole bunch. We need to course correct now. And this isn't the first time that some of these folks have spoken out. And the EPA told me just last week that they are still standing by all of the residential air testing, and they don't intend to do any more, which is wild when you talk to expert after expert after expert who's saying this thing that I laid out very clearly for them in my line of questioning, and they just got back to me being like, well, we disagree with that it's wrong. And it's like... And then we wonder why, and they're all like, why do people in East Palestine not trust us anymore? Why I don't know. I don't understand. Why are they recording all of our phone calls? And it's like, well, maybe if you from the very beginning just said, hey, we don't know the answers to all of this right now. Not just saying, hey, it's safe to go back. It's like, hey, okay, we did some baseline air testing, and it came back okay, but we could be missing some things. So out of an abundance of caution, we're not going to say that it's safe to go back. But if you do want to go in and get some belongings, or, do at least say that you don't know. Don't tell people that it's fine. Have families go move back in. People bring their children back. People bring their pets back, and get everybody sick when you really didn't know at the time, which is, it frustrates me that that's how this was all handled, and that they won't admit that it was handled poorly, even now.
Right. And, from day one, they effed up, because day one, they left it upon neighbors to tell other neighbors, we got to evacuate.
Right.
Nobody, where were the cops? Where were the ambulances, whoever coming and knocking on those doors and being like, you have to evacuate. Why? I wonder why. Maybe because they didn't, even with their equipment and hazmat suits and shit, they still didn't want to go in that area. So they left it upon themselves to be like telling neighbors and stuff, which is so jacked up. But that also brings me to what happened today. Philly, where I'm from, Norfolk Southern, again. And they were evacuated, this town outside of Philly. They were evacuated, but they actually had a state of emergency that evacuated all of them, and of homes and businesses. And it's like, okay, well, at least that's good, I guess. I don't know. Is it good, or is it what's expected? What should be?
Yeah, no, it's bad. I saw that one earlier today too. Fortunately, it looks like they didn't have any major leaks or anything, but it was carrying, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it was carrying a chemical that would be bad if spilled. Fortunately, the tank did not breach or anything like that. It sounds like the cleanup is kind of going underway, but yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous that, again, I mean, in the beginning of this, I used to say all the time, like, in 2022, 1,300 trains derailed in the United States. 1,300. That's like 3 a day, 4 a day in some cases. That's unacceptable. That should be unacceptable. And the fact that we're, again, 5.5 months out, and our federal government has essentially passed nothing as far as any sort of rail safety legislation, even if it was just for show. They haven't even passed one for show to like pretend that they did something about it. They are... It's currently, they're having a hard time even getting it through the Senate. It doesn't look like it'd be good going through the House at this point. I did a little bit of reporting on this earlier in the week for Status Quo. It's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Andrew, is that the article I had that said that it was unanimous that they were just voting to not increase people on the trains? They actually just unanimously voted. What's that?
No, that was the Philly crash that I that I was showing.
Can you show the Buttigieg video?
Tweet?
No, it's a video. It's an article that has his video in it. I put it in the Twitter chat.
Sure.
Now this shit, I'm just warning you guys, especially my comrades in EP. I haven't been this mad in a long ass time. And I think part of it is just his face. Like, he just has a face that just makes me angry because I just can't stand him.
Yeah. Let me see. All right. Here we go. Yeah, this is going to be fun. All right. Regardless of Biden's visit, Buttigieg says East Palestine cleanup top priority.
Obviously.
Yeah. So, U.S. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg said the Biden administration is not walking away from the people of East Palestine and vowed that the EPA will be there for as long as they need support. He told News Nation in an interview that aside from the cleanup after February Norfolk Southern derailment and the subsequent chemical burn, one of his top priorities is making sure residents don't feel forgotten. The commitment is there from the Biden administration, he said. This administration was on the ground within hours of the derailment and will not be walking away from this community in the years and decades to come for as long as they need support.
You want to show this video clip here? I think you might have to. Down. Yeah, I think it's a little further down.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
How about that, Lewis? That's accurate, huh?
Oh yes, yeah. It's tricky because these guys are all in a position where they can't necessarily admit that the EPA has done such a terrible job, even though they should. But they've gone so far into this without saying it that saying it now is I still think if Pete Buttigieg is just now getting up to speed that the EPA has been a comedy of errors essentially throughout this entire thing. Then he should say something and try to course correct. But if this whole time he's also been aware of this and hasn't done anything, I mean, it's too late. I mean, they should have been making these changes months ago.
Absolutely. No question.
I'll play a little bit of the clip now.
Where residents are still complaining about smelling noxious smells in the air and questioning whether or not their water is safe.
Well, the biggest thing that's helping the residents on a day-to-day basis right now is the work of the EPA. The EPA is holding Norfolk Southern accountable for the costs of the cleanup and making sure that there is testing of air, of soil, and of water. But here on the transportation side, we're working to make sure that we are doing more that could help prevent these kinds of things from happening in the future. Now, that particular derailment's still under investigation. I'm not going to get ahead of the NTSB on that. But some things we already know include the fact that more use of a technology called a wayside defect detector. This is basically a piece of equipment that sits on the side of the railroad track and can tell if a wheel is overheating. Could and should be used more widely. We've already put out safety advisories on this to the railroad sector, but again, with help from legislation, could be in a position to do more.
But Mr. Secretary, to be clear, you and your team and the Biden administration have not forgotten about the people in East Palestine, Ohio, correct?
Whenever I check in with people who I got to know in East Palestine, I hear two things from them. One, on one hand, they don't want to be defined by this. They're seeking to enjoy their summer, build up their community, make sure people know why they're proud of their community. On the other hand, they want to make sure they're not forgotten and that they have support not just this year, but as many years as it takes.
That's rough to listen to. That's
I'm
rough
sorry.
to listen to.
Who the hell are you talking to?
He was there one time.
So if I mean, I haven't. I'm not gonna say that I talked to that enough people to know this, but I haven't heard a single person say that they've spoken with Pete Buttigieg at this point.
No.
And number two, the person he must be maybe speaking with is somebody who is in that crowd that I was talking about before of getting the money, because you know who's paying for enjoying the summer in the park and whatnot is Norfolk Southern. Norfolk Southern is sponsoring a whole makeover of the East Palestine City Park with a new pool and water slides and playground. And yes, that's that's infuriating to listen to. Honestly, I didn't hear that earlier today. Wow.
No, that was yesterday, and that's why he's like,
okay.
We're making regulations to make sure this doesn't happen again. Oh, except tomorrow morning. That's
they don't want to be defined by this. They want to get on with their summers. I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure people, regardless of if they're getting sick or not, see that their home values have plummeted, that they're dealing with all sorts of other issues. Their neighbors are not there in many cases. Their neighbors or friends are getting sick, but they want to move on with their summers. Man, I like if he went and spent some actual time there, I think he would course correct that statement quite a bit as well. Jeez.
If you have any semblance of empathy and reality, I mean, and this is not to sound sanctimonious at all, but the fact of the matter is the local, state, and federal government is doing nothing for these people, and that's why people like me, Andrew, Kami John, Lauren, Zach, you know, my mind went blank, Jenna, all of us are, you know, coming in from out of state. Some of them are flying in from across the country to provide this mutual aid because the government does not care at all. So, yeah, the mayor's all like cool, the governor's cool, you know, everyone's just chill except these people who have to be their own doctors, their own scientists, their own everything. Like they're finally having a doctor do volunteer trauma counseling. Like things are bad. You know, I don't know if you heard this because at first I heard of it was today during the Unity Council meeting tonight. And Jessica Kennard was saying that they're doing this bracelet testing and it checks for certain kind of toxins.
Are they the silicone bracelet things, right?
Yeah.
I haven't heard about this in a while. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, they started that. She's wearing it now. So there's a lot of people who are wearing this and they're going to, so essentially guys who are watching, essentially these bracelets they're wearing will be able to pick up certain toxins that are in the air because what other help are they getting? Independent water testers are flying in on their own dime to help them. So these are all things people are, you know, doing on their own to try and help them because who else is going to do it?
Right. Yep. Yeah, no, it's mind-blowing that, I mean, it's middle of July. I didn't think that this was necessarily going to be like a quick, easy recovery or anything, or that it would all go smooth and well, but I would have thought that by July, this wouldn't be like one of the main stories that I'd still be focusing on at this point. Yeah. I'm happy to keep doing it until some sort of justice, like I said earlier, is come to. But man, just it's thing after thing after thing. Every rock you flip over is just another series of mishaps. Just another pile of issues that one resident will have to face or another family is facing here, and it's seemingly never ending. Yeah.
Absolutely. These people's lives will forever change. I mean, I was being told of PTSD when the fireworks went off last week. I mean, these people are going through it in every single way. So they are amazing. I cannot freaking wait to meet them Saturday and a lot of them Friday because we're doing several days of actions. But I cannot thank you enough, Louis, for coming on. Thank you so much for your covering this, for going there on the ground, for connecting me with these people who I could not do this without. So please tell as if people don't know what Status Quo is, but please tell people where they can find you and everything like that, just in case they don't already know.
For sure, yeah. So, I've been fortunate to be able to cover this story in East Palestine because of Status Quo. Status Quo, in my opinion, does probably the best job of actually being on the ground as far as independent media goes. Not a lot of other independent media get out to these places and actually understand like the real lived experience of what it's like to go through a, whether it be in the case of East Palestine, toxic train derailment, or my colleague Jordan has covered Flint, Michigan's water crisis for 9 years or something at this point. So, understanding what's going on there, I've been able to cover some, unfortunately, like really tragic events for Status Quo, but it's all been really important events. The going to Jackson, Mississippi when they've been dealing with water issues. I was in Uvalde right after the school shooting there. I mean, Status Quo is one of the only real independent on the ground outlets going and trying to cover this stuff in the right way. So you can obviously subscribe to Status Quo on YouTube. Is an easy way to help us out. You can also consider becoming a member. That's statusquo.com/join. That's the only way we're able to actually continue to do this sort of thing. And you can also personally, you can follow me on Twitter at LewisD217. I do a lot of work with Status Quo. I've got a couple other fun personal projects in the works that I haven't really shared with anybody yet. So those will be coming soon. I'll be sure to fill you all in. Maybe you'll be interested in some of them when that starts to come to fruition as well.
Absolutely. And you guys, this is on you guys too. You need to tell other podcasters that they need to shut up about talking about other podcasters. It's not interesting. If they have a platform, they should be talking about shit like this. When my blind, disabled ass goes and is marching in the street with my white cane and I'm falling all over shit, if I can do it, some of these people can do it too. Stop making excuses. Hold people accountable. This shit is never going to stop unless people actually start giving a fuck. Period. End of story. But again, thank you so much, Lewis. Much love for everything you're doing. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care. You guys, thank you so much for just stick around, and we will be getting to future news here, some other fun stuff that's been happening. Isn't he wonderful? Don't you guys just love him? He's fabulous, and he's a great journalist, and he does great work. I wish that I, had the patrons to be able to travel, because it's one of the things I absolutely love the most. I'm so excited to get out and do this weekend. It invigorates me. It really does. So I am so excited. Andrew, what is up next?
Would you like to talk about the press release?
Oh, yes. You will have to read that.
Yes.
But yes, this is the first time we're sharing the press release about. Now, this press release is about Saturday's mutual aid and rally, but we are doing other events Friday as well. But this one is about Saturday. This is the big one, so to speak, and this is the one that many of the donations are going towards.
Yeah, so for immediate release, July 16th, National Volunteer Activists announce a National Day of Action in solidarity with the people of East Palestine, Ohio, and vicinity. Protests will call attention to the U.S. government's neglect of its citizens and indifference to the crimes of massive corporations. Organizers will bring mutual aid while demanding universal single-payer health care for all. It has been over 5 months since the cataclysmic derailment of the Norfolk Southern train and the spewing of toxic materials into the air in and around East Palestine, Ohio on the 3rd of 2023. Since that date, residents have waited in vain for a state of the emergency to be declared. Even a request by the governor, Mike DeWine, was met by callous disregard as Biden refused to sign it. That declaration would grant them free health care under 1881A of Social Security Act. It also give them access to desperately needed federal resources. Natural disaster is automatically labeled an emergency, yet a catastrophe caused by the negligence of a multi-billion-dollar corporation is countered by attempts to rationalize, excuse, and minimize the human and environmental devastation. Respiratory issues, skin rashes, sores and lesions, burning eyes, bleeding of the nose and rectum, and PTSD are just a few of the horrifying medical effects. Rather than take responsibility for the crisis and compensate the victims. Norfolk Southern insults them with symbolic gestures such as $10 coupon, carnivals, Easter egg hunts, fireworks. Brazen public relations takes precedence, obligating the residents to fend for themselves. By its inaction, the U.S. government has starkly announced its loyalty to the corporate class and its disdain for the American people.
Oh, there's a second
Yep,
page.
yep, I'll get to the second.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it says, and watch as humanity continues to suffer. It is long past time to demand the rights of people over profit. On this 22nd, 2023, a rally will be held at Columbiana County, 105 South Market Street, Lisbon, Ohio, at 12 p.m. All are welcome to join in solidarity, and those affected by the East Palestine trade route will be provided mutual aid of water, groceries, items of children, and other items for children, and other supplies. We are honored. Our event has the endorsements of the Unity Council of East Palestine, Real Progressives, the Allegheny County Green Party, and March on Harrisburg.
Thank you, Real Progressives, for the third year in a row endorsing these actions. Kami, I know you're not here right now. That came out wrong. He's not at the show right now. He's okay. He's just not at the show right now. But he will be coming out. Kami's coming out from Minnesota.
Minnesota.
I'm coming from Harrisburg, PA. Andrew's coming from Boston. Lauren's coming from Missouri. Zach is coming from Chicago. Like, these people are coming from all over. Like, and Cole is coming from Minnesota as well. Like, I cannot tell you, like, and we're all, these people are doing this shit on their own dime. Like, we're not like some place that has like, that is able to pay people. This is all, we are volunteers. This is all our, like, we're paying for all this shit, and I do want to say, I cannot fucking believe today we hit our goal of $12,000. I'm stunned. I do, however, want to, well, before I say, however, you guys have blown my fucking mind. I was so scared for over 2 months that we were not going to even make the bare minimum to even get them a pallet of water. Like, I lost sleep over this shit. And we had 4 donations that were $1,000 each. We had a $700 donation. We had several $500 donations. I mean, then we had a lot of $5 and $10 donations, which mean just as much, because I know what it's like to only be able to give that. Those people are struggling and they still want to help. Like, all these donations mean so freaking much. And I was always telling people, even $5 buys a case of water for a family who is still fucking taking baths in bottled water. That's how bad this shit is. So these donations, I do want to make clear, there are more than just these events. So some of the money is not going to East Palestine. So even though we have met that goal, I still want to request donations, because the past few days I've been getting personal texts from people in and around East Palestine who need diapers, wipes, air filters, water filtrations. One woman reached out, has 9 kids living in the same house because of people being displaced. Like, these people need help. So, I think we have like 7,000 going to East Palestine or something right now, which is good. It's excellent. But when I tell you a pallet of water is only 48 cases and it's almost $500, and groceries and diapers and cleaning supplies and, stuff like feminine hygiene products and, I mean, all these things there, and even some toys and books for kids who have freaking nothing. Like, this shit is adding up. And I am like, the more people who text me with requests, the more determined I am to help every freaking one of these people who has reached out. Because who else? If we don't help them, I'm not confident anyone else will at this point. I'm just not. So Jenna, if you could put the Give Send Go link in here. I'll be going on Maximilian's show on Real News Network tomorrow to also promote. I'll be with Jamie from East Palestine to also be talking about the events this weekend. But yes, I mean, I want to keep raising as much as possible because, and of course, as always, every penny is accounted for. We save receipts for everything, so you will certainly know that how the donations are being spent. But anyway, I digress. I just wanted to share my thank you to everyone who made that possible, and just encourage people to still, there's like a few more days to chip in. But Andrew, what else? I know there were a few other topics that were just kind of quick ones.
Yes, so as you know, there is a strike that is currently happening in Hollywood. And I wanted to there was a clip that I saw recently of CNN covering an aspect of it. And I wanted to show it just because I think the person who tweeted it really kind of summed it up, where it is when it comes to these times of particularly like solidarity, right? Between different people, there's always that someone, in this case, a particularly powerful media source that does what they can to put people against each other, right? And so I think it's just important that we always just take note of who does that and what they hope to gain from doing that. So just give me 1 second as I show a quick news. This is from, yeah. So here we go. All right. So this is CNN.
A janitor was laid off. Yolanda Sendejas Garcia, a janitor, was laid off from Paramount Studios shortly after the writer's strike began. Fewer productions means less to clean. Nearly 2 months later, she's collecting plastic bottles for cash. She's buying cheaper groceries and says she'll soon lose health insurance and worries about buying her diabetes medication.
So, first of all, when does CNN ever talk about custodial staff in any capacity?
Right.
And then suddenly they're talking about, oh, they can't afford diabetes. Now they talk about healthcare and how because they're not working, they can't afford things that should be a human right, right? Whenever there's a strike going on, right? Does it suck that this person got laid off? Of course. And it's always the insinuation is because of the striking workers, not because of who's paying them and who's giving them the shitty deal. So I just thought that was just very notable that CNN just happened to bring in those topics at the expense of other people who are striking for better. Yeah.
I legit hear people like, oh man, there's going to be nothing on TV. Are you for real? Like, are you fucking for real right now? Listen to a podcast. Who the fuck cares? Like, people, like, if you don't support this, you have fucking issues.
Also, I mean, I don't know about you, but there's plenty of shows that are already established or rerun shows that
Yeah, like
I
a
haven't gotten
million.
to. Like, there's plenty. There's plenty.
Yeah. Have you already seen every episode and every season of every fucking show that was ever made? Probably not. And if so, please get a life because that's
Then
pretty.
maybe this is an opportunity to do something else, like learn
Yes,
other.
get a new hobby.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, completely agree. And then I also wanted to, I guess we'll bring light to something that is kind of disturbing. It's under investigation currently.
Trigger warning.
And yeah, this is definitely a trigger warning. And I think it's another thing worth mentioning is, and I find it interesting too. Someone brought this up to me as well as, at a time where people are talking about child trafficking, and child trafficking does happen. It is an issue, right? Like, hello, the Epstein case, right? Like,
Yeah, like seriously.
but I do feel like people at times sometimes use it maybe in bad faith or use it in a weird narrative in a way to be like, oh, like the United States is out there to stop human trafficking. And like,
right.
We need to also, as we always say, like, look in our own backyard when it comes to the types of things that we are doing or at least being complicit in doing. And so wanted to bring up this article here. And yeah, trigger warning, definitely. So family says, sorry, let me go back to sharing this another way. Missing 14-year-old girl found at camp Pendleton, California. Okay, so 14-year-old girl who was reported missing from her Spring Valley home last month is back home after she was found at Camp Pendleton, authorities said today, while a Marine has reportedly been taken into custody in the case, which is being investigated by human trafficking authorities. The girl, who has not been identified because of her age, was reported missing by her grandmother on June 13th, according to a San Diego County Sheriff's Department. Sheriff's officials said the grandmother told them that the girl, who had run away before but always returned home quickly, went missing on June 9th. The teen's information was entered into multiple missing person databases, including the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Military police at Camp Pendleton located the girl on June 28th and informed the Sheriff's Department. Detectives interviewed her and the family was offered services, authorities said. When a minor runs away, there is usually an underlining of trauma-associated free counseling and social services to help the girl and her family deal with trauma and personal issues are being offered. She was not hospitalized, but it was unclear if she sustained any injuries. Since Camp Pendleton is federal property, Naval Criminal Investigative Services is handling the investigation. The San Diego County Sheriff's Department and the San Diego Human Trafficking Task Force are supporting NCIS with the investigation. On June 28th, the Marine was taken into custody by military police on the base and questioned by NCIS personnel about his involvement with the girl. Meanwhile, the girl's aunt, Cassandra Perez, posted a video to TikTok in which she said that her family was afraid of retaliation from the military and from the man she believes trafficked her niece. Out of respect for the investigative process, NCIS does not comment on, confirm details related to, or confirm the existence of ongoing investigations. So, yeah, thought this was something worth sharing, since this is something that is, of course, under the radar. And
MMIW is always under the radar. There are thousands of natives. MMIW, missing and murdered Indigenous women.
Yeah.
Thousands every year. And it is under the radar. And the thing that a lot of people don't know is some Native communities have actually created their own court systems.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, like the regular government will not take their cases. So they actually have created their own, courthouses and such. And I mean, seriously, look into MMIW. I mean, it is staggering the amount of Indigenous women who just never get heard of again, and nobody looks into it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it really just speaks volumes, the amount of retaliation that they were even afraid of saying. And I think it also speaks volumes that, of course, the private, like, they haven't released the name of the person who
Yep.
they think even did it, right?
And I want to know who the hell also she was given to, put it that way. I want to know all those names too, not just the effort who took her, but all the other ones who were lining up.
Yeah, for sure. So for the next topic, Joy, we can do this vid. Everyone should watch this so we finally end this date. Could you prove that all 2,000 of billionaires are evil people? All right, let's.
This video, I'm telling you guys, it's on my Twitter. You're gonna want to save it. You're gonna want to bookmark it because this is a video.
Yeah, let's look at this.
This is why I love me some math nerds.
People. Yeah, I can. It's not even very hard. So first, let's put a billion into perspective. 1 million seconds is about 12 days. 1 billion seconds is just under 32 years, which means that if you earned $1 every single second and never spent any of it, it would take you about 32 years to earn a single $1 billion. If you earned $5,000 a day from the time that Columbus started his infamous voyage, it would take you about 527 years to earn a single $1 billion. And there are people out there with multiple billions of dollars. Based on that math, we can conclude that there's no ethical way to acquire $1 billion because there's no physically possible way to earn that money solely through the value of your own labor. Which means that in order to become a billionaire, you have to steal the labor value of thousands, if not millions of people. And we know that this is the case. And we know that this is the case because between 1979 and 2021, the average productivity, meaning the average amount of labor value produced by the workers, has increased by 64.6%. Meanwhile, the average wage of workers has only increased by about 17.3%. That's a difference of nearly 50% labor value. So already billionaires are stealing 50% or more of their workers' labor value so that it can sit around in investment funds and stock portfolios, providing nothing of value to society. And when we start to take certain other things into account, it gets even worse. There are currently over 582,000 homeless people in the United States, many of which are children. And in the year 2020, there were more than 34 million food insecure people in the United States. That's about 10% of the population that doesn't know where their next meal is going to come from. Now, do you know how much it would cost to end homelessness in the United States? According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, it would cost $20 billion to end homelessness in the United States. And there are currently 770 billionaires in the United States, putting aside...
Is that not just incredible? So, no, we don't need to tax rich MFers to get the money to pay for these things per MMT. But we should still tax these MFers because we get taxed and we work. So, yeah, I mean, seriously, this is insane. So you take 1 billion from each of those people, you freaking end homelessness, you give people food. It's absolutely insane. And tax churches. I'm gonna go there. Tax the fucking churches because I'm sick of this shit. Separation of church
Especially
and state.
if they're figuring out ways to still be involved in the political process.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Tax them.
Separation of church and state. You bring politics into it. You should know. like these guys selling hot dogs in the church, they were onto something. They were badass.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good little direct action.
That was amazing. If you
Ushers,
guys,
ushers.
that was amazing. If you guys missed that, we showed this video a few weeks ago where these two guys came into a big church service with hot dogs, and they were like, hot dogs in the like down the pews and stuff, and the priest was like, ushers. And it's like, you're tithing, like whatever, dude, you're tithing.
I loved how a lot of people who were there were actually laughing too. Like,
Yeah.
they were just like, oh.
I wanted someone to go up and take a hot dog so bad. So
Right.
bad. Damn it.
You pay your rent, I pay mine. Hot dog.
Yeah. Jesus would want to feed the poor. Come on, people.
Of course, he would
Eat hot
definitely give
dogs.
them a hot dog if that existed in the year one.
Hot dogs for Jesus. Hot dogs. OMG.
All right, and so I guess we're gonna end on RFK.
Oh, I don't even want to do him now. I fucking hate him.
All right,
But let's.
we won't.
Where's the video of Biden and that fucking baby?
Oh God, I don't know. That's
what I want to end on, because it's a funny, but it's also I'm gonna cry in the fetal position. So it's like a little bit of both.
yeah.
Let me see. It's really fucked up, but at the same time, like, if we don't laugh, we'll cry. So I'm gonna put it in here anyway.
It is yeah, and this is in Finland.
Yes.
That he did
Oh, you
this.
found it?
Yeah.
I can't right now. Oh my God.
And it's like, these are the things where it's like, we're sure it's not AI, right? Like, it's
No, it's definitely not. There's 40 years of him being a fucking fruitcake.
I know, but it's just like, I can't believe. All right.
Here we go. I got it.
You got it? All right.
Okay, now you guys, look, I apologize if I put this in your head tonight when you're trying to sleep, but I'm sorry. This is, even for Biden, this shit is fucking weird. Like,
Yeah,
weird.
this is just, I hate watching this. All right.
Trigger warning. Disturbing footage. This is why we need free healthcare. This kid is going to need therapy.
No, for real. And he's doing this in like in Finland too. Like,
Yeah, like all these people around, media around, parents don't care.
why?
Like, I have never gone up to a stranger's baby and gone, and tried to take a bite out of it and then like go and like sniff it. Like, that kid was not having it at all. But why? You know, every time he does this shit to the kids, the parents are just like, it's like, you don't see something fucking wrong with this?
Yeah.
It's gross. It is gross. Ew.
Not good at all.
I'm going to not vote for him even harder this time.
All right.
Yes, Andrew. Well, now guess what? When I ask you what's going on and you say not too much, what's going on?
Going to East Palestine this weekend.
That's right, baby. That's right.
Yeah.
I only met my boo once, and it was a year ago. And I can't wait to see him again because I hugged him for about at least 5 minutes straight at the airport, and it made him so uncomfortable, and I can't wait to do it again. I'm a hugger. But I will tell you, Jenna is very excited to meet you. Super excited.
Yes.
Kami's excited to see you again. Lauren's excited to see you again.
Yep.
So yeah, like you're gonna be with people who adore you. So
Heck
I'm
yeah.
excited.
Good company.
Yeah, baby, we're going to help some people. That's what's up. And I'm gonna tell you guys, like in all seriousness, I'm not even kidding you. People in East Palestine are so thankful for the donations, the kind words, the well wishes, they feel like nobody gives a shit about them, which totally is understandable. And they feel like maybe some people actually do care. And so that is just as important as this mutual aid, because we need them to have some hope.
Yeah.
They don't have any now, and we can't blame them. So now Real Progress in Action will be streaming. I'll be the MC, so I can't stream. I'll upload it to my channel afterwards. But Real RP is the one you're going to want to tune into. We very well may go live Friday because we have an event then as well. We are doing a water and food drop Friday afternoon, candlelight vigil at 8 p.m. And then the next day is the rally and mutual aid event. And a few of us are doing a little protest action after the rally. We'll just put it that way because we don't want no po-po up in our shit. So yeah, so we have some fun shit going on, basically off and on all day, Friday and Saturday. But yes, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you to all who donated. Again, we are still taking donations because I'm still getting requests from residents who need specific items. So anything you could do to help would be amazing. So see you guys Friday and Saturday. Ah! Yay. Much love.